Hello, this is Keith All, and today is part 2 on how pivot tables work in 2016. And today we're going to be talking about inserting pivot tables into your Excel workbook. Your first step is to go to your worksheet in your workbook where your table already exists and a table has already been defined within Excel. And you're going to, step one is you're going to select any cell within that table range. Once you do that, you're going to go up to your ribbon and you're going to click on the Insert tab. And then once you do that, you're going to have this little button on the ribbon to your left called Pivot Table. You're going to select that. And what comes up next is the Create Pivot Table dialog box. Now, in this area here, if you select the top radio button, it says select a table or a range. So you could actually select the table name that you previously defined, or you could select a range within a table within your worksheet. If you select to use an external data source, what that means is basically you're going to use a table that's in like a database, like say an Access database, a Microsoft Access database. That's just one example of what an external data source is. Down below here, it says choose where you want the pivot table report to be placed. Now you could select the top radio button that says new worksheet. That means it's going to place the pivot table in your current workbook, but in a different worksheet. This existing worksheet is either going to be an existing worksheet in your current workbook, or you could select a different workbook. And that's what that option here. Once you come down here and select OK, you come to this screen here. And basically, whatever option you said to place the pivot table report, either a new worksheet or an existing worksheet, this area will be displayed. And in the left hand side is where your pivot table is going to reside. This right box, window, or dialog box will appear in the worksheet, and this top area here is where your pivot table fields are. Now these fields listed here are going to match whatever field names that were in your table. Basically, these were the column headers in that table that you defined earlier. Down below is what they call the pivot table areas. You have 4 quadrants. You have your filters, columns, values, and rows. And in my next tutorial, I will go into more detail about the pivot table areas. And once you select your column names or field names here and place them into one of these 4 quadrants, your pivot table will actually be populated. So right now I'm going to go to my Excel worksheet, and I'm going to go through the exact same steps that I showed you within this slideshow. But before I do that, always make sure that you go to this URL, and that will take you to my playlist on my YouTube channel. And that's where I'll be storing all my tutorials on Excel pivot tables or dashboard tutorials. Now let me go over to my Excel sheet. And now here I have a sample table. It's not yet defined as a table, but I'm going to create a table here, and then I'll show you exactly how to insert a pivot table. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go up to the Insert tab here up on the ribbon, and I want to create a table, because in order to create a pivot table, you must have a defined table within your worksheet. So here I'm going to create the table, and Excel automatically senses where the table range starts and ends whenever you place your cursor into the area where your data resides. Now down here, it's going to mark the range of where your table is. It's going to mark it from cell A1 all the way down to cell G444 in this case. And in this case, my table, or the data source that I have right here, I want to define it with headers in here. So that's where this checkbox is. It says my table has headers, so I'm going to leave that checked. Once I do that, my table is now created within Excel, and Excel automatically gives it some styling to it. And in my other tutorials that I'll create on tables, I'll show you exactly how to change this styling. For this purpose, let's go back to inserting a pivot table. Again, step one was select any cell within your table, which I just did. Now I want to go up to the ribbon and select the Insert tab. Step 3 would be, now I want to insert a pivot table, so I click on Pivot Table, and here's this Create Pivot dialog box. Now, again, Excel will automatically select this radio button here. It says Select the Table or Range. For this purposes, Excel defined it as Table 2, and for purposes of this tutorial, I want to create the pivot table in a new worksheet. So I'm going to select this radio button here. Once I do that, now watch below down here. I only have one sheet currently. But once I click OK, it's automatically going to insert a new worksheet down here. So I'm going to do that, and now it takes me to sheet 2. Now this is how it all works. In my slideshow, I said it's going to create the pivot table here, which is yet not filled with any fields or data yet, because we have to get to a point where we worked with this area here. And this is the pivot tables fields area. And again, these field names will correspond exactly to the headers in my table. So if I go back to my table, you will see these headers: order date, region, rep, item, etc. And this is where it pulls those field names from. Down below here is your pivot tables area. So I hope this tutorial was very helpful to you on how pivot tables work, and specifically how to insert a pivot table into your workbook. In the future, I will have more videos and tutorials. In my next tutorial on how pivot tables work, we'll discuss more about this dialog box here and inserting fields into these pivot table areas. Again, I want to thank you for stopping by, and I look forward to doing the next tutorial for you so you can be more proficient with your Excel skills. Thanks again. I'll talk to you later. Bye now.